Olean, and salutations to the Truth Core, whoever and wherever you may be on the planet. It's the 25th of October, 2021, and here I am again. And my intention right now is to say something about a situation you may be facing, whoever you are. I can guarantee you I'm facing this situation, and everyone I know in my small entourage of personal friends and extended entourage of students knows exactly what the situation is. I would add there as a qualification, considering the objections that might be raised to such a statement, there reaches a point in any situation or crisis when you know all you need to know, when you know enough to be able to face it honestly, courageously, and consider what to do about it. So I'm saying that I'm at that point. I've been there for a while. Everyone else I know is, and some of you may be as well. I'm going to formulate the situation in an incomplete phrase. It goes like this. When you really know what's not right about things in the world. When you really know, what do you do then? What might you do? So that phrase sort of dangles, you see. And in the way it dangles, it leads to another topic. Obviously, when you know what's not right with something, you know what to do about it. But what to do about it comes in another talk. Right now, I simply want to set up a proposition for you. It's a simple and clear proposition. And in fact, in the way that I'm going to set this up, you may find that the answer or solution is implied in the way the question is constructed. Are you with me? Now, very often when I speak in English, of course, American English. I don't know other languages so well I can get by in French. I'm acutely aware that some of you who listen to me may not be native English language speakers. I always try to keep that in mind because I would like to reach you as well. Needless to say, my English can be elaborate and highly nuanced, and some people who know English well find it difficult to follow some of the things I say. That roaring in the background was the furnace, which I have turned off. Yeah, the things I say, and even more so the way that I say them. You've probably noticed that I am precise and deliberate in the way I say things. And on the topic today, I'm going to start with a clarification about a certain word in English and how it is used and how I intend to use it or where I intend to go with this word. As far as I know, in French and Spanish, it doesn't quite work the same way. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the word right. R-I-G-H-T. Now in English, the word right has about 5 permutations of meaning or applications. 1, it signifies a direction. Turn right at the traffic light. 2, it signifies a side. The files are in the drawer on the right-hand side or right side of the cabinet. 3, as a noun, it's a term in legal usage. You have a right to something. For instance, you have a right to drive a car legally if you have a license. Some people would say you have a right to drive a car whether or not you have a license or insurance. So the use of the third expression, right, is problematical. I've addressed that before, and as I've said, I don't believe in rights, and I don't see the necessity of rights at all. Responsibilities, yes. Rights, it's just a word that could be better stated. It's a concept that could be better stated as an agreement. So people in a certain society, in a community, country, or nation have rights. No, they have agreements about how they will behave in regard to each other, in respect to the well-being of the population as a whole. Fourth application, right means correct or true. So if I say Ernest Hemingway was a famous American novelist who shot himself in June of 1961, that's probably right, although it may have been July. So right means correct, true, accurate. That's the fourth application. Can you think of any others? I'm thinking of another. Now maybe I'm missing some. But in the list that I'm sharing with you here, there's just one more to go. And in that fifth example, the word right signifies ideology. Now, there's nothing new or special or mysterious about any of that, is there? All of those 5 variations of the word right are common. And everyone uses them all the time without thinking much about it. How about the expression not right? Something that's not right. How often do you use that expression? You might use it, for instance, if you were washing the clothes and you heard that the washing machine starts to make some kind of whine, or the tumbler is vibrating the machine in a violent way. You might say, oh, hey, something's not right with the washing machine. Oh, if you're reading a book that has been printed badly, and you find as you're reading a novel, and you find as you get to page 93, page 94 repeats an earlier page. This sometimes happens in printing errors. Oh, there's something not right about the printing of this novel. Another instance is if you're driving by the schoolyard when school gets out, and you see a creepy sort of male figure standing around there in a trench coat, bending down, talking to some children in the play yard and handing them candies. If your instincts are good, if your moral radar is operating, you might say, there's something not right going on over there. So not right is an emphatic statement. It stops you in your tracks. If you realize that you're doing something that's not right, you go into a building to have an important engagement, you're late, you have to be there at 2 o'clock, it's a large building, you get off the elevator at the wrong floor. Oh, this is not right. I've got to do something immediately. Or right away, by the way. There's another expression of right. It's another permutation in which the word right is combined with a sense of timing. So put it all together. things are not right in the world, and something has to be done about it right away. Powerful word, right? And I haven't even got to the most powerful permutation yet. So how many things are not right in the world? Is it not right to have drag queen story time for children at the public library? Is it not right to be told that CO2 is toxic? Is it not right that there is no respect or gratitude shown by immigrants to the countries they invade or where they are transported? Is it not right that there is no debate over the true nature of the bunny bug? Not right that you can be forced or coerced into medical interventions without your consent? Not right that criminals run nations? Not right that one nation forbids any foreign influence whatsoever in the affairs within its boundaries, and yet it exerts extensive influence and control over nations everywhere else in the world? Not right that private banking cartel controls the economy of a country such as the United States? Not right that you yourself are regarded as a biohazard, a danger to public health, even if you're in perfect health? Not right to forbid natural remedies and persecute, fine, and imprison people who use natural remedies? How much time do you have this afternoon? I could go on for an hour. You could. So let's agree. There are many things that are not right in this world of ours today, on this planet we share. But do you know why they are not right? Do you know why everything is going to ruin? Livelihoods, businesses, everything normal, everything that human beings naturally and normally need, including the simple pleasures of life, the comforts, the security, as well as the dignity of earning a living, pleasure of traveling freely and meeting other people, and on and on. So obviously, something's not right in this world. That's a primary perception. Coming up behind that is the observation and conclusion about why things are not right. So when you really know why things are not right in this world today, what happens then? If you're someone who is capable of taking responsibility, not only for your own life, but that of others around you, first of all, those that you know and care about, then perhaps into larger circles, such as your community or even your nation. For instance, I'm an American, Native American. I do care about what happens in my nation, and I feel responsibility in whatever way I can to set right what is so wrong. There's another example of the use of right as a verb. To set something right, or to right a wrong, or right a situation. The intention to do that is a moral intention. And anyone who really knows, and I'm getting to the really part, why things are not right in this world, has the responsibility at least to consider how to set them right, how to correct what is wrong and eliminate the sources and the causes that make things go so badly wrong in the world. The world has never before, globally speaking, on the planetary scale, gone wrong in the way it's doing now. You could consider that a unique opportunity. But an opportunity for what? Speaking of the word opportunity, at this point in my little chat this evening, I'd like to bring up the formula from legal and criminal procedures. The threefold formula. MMO. Motive, means, and opportunity. So when detectives and law enforcement officials, as they quaintly used to be called, look at a crime, and then they have people of interest, right? And sometimes the person of interest, the POA, turns into a suspect. How does that happen? Well, there's a person of interest over there who might be responsible for this murder that was committed. But the investigative process requires that you ask, did he have a motive, means, an opportunity that would have led to committing that murder? And if indeed the person of interest is found to satisfy that formula, then he or she becomes a suspect, right? Now you can turn it around the other way, and you can say that MMO is a formula of responsibility. So you are responsible to the truth that you see. And if you truly and actually see what's not right in the world and what's behind it, then you have a responsibility that fits this formula. In the first place, do you have the motive to act on the truth? Well, the truth is the motive. So if you see the truth, the motive is always there. Do you have the means to act on the truth? Good question. And do you have the opportunity to act on the truth? So the formula is a little different when you turn it around into a formula of responsibility, you see. But there it is. And it's an existential proposition. Clear as day, clear as crystal. So you might find yourself in a situation, as many people do today, I suppose, where they have a motive, they see the truth of what's not right, and they know why, but they don't have the means or the opportunity to do anything about it. Now, what I'm going to say next may sound rather odd, and in fact, it's rather odd for me to say that, because I'm not quite sure what I am going to say next. Well, I'll give it a try. See how it sounds. Bear with me for a moment. I want to go back and review that little proposition of responsibility, which is a paraphrase, you could say, of the formula of criminality. Motive, means, and opportunity. So we agree that knowing the truth about how things happen and what's not right in the world is in itself a motive. Truth might be considered to be the most powerful motive known to human animals, along with the motive to survive, protect yourself, protect and continue your own life. Yeah, I would put it on that status. I would put it on that level. But then, continuing the formula, if you personally, in your context, whatever it may be, in your social setting, according to your material circumstances, if you don't have the means to act on the truth you see, or the opportunity, then you're stuck with that, right? You're stuck in a tragic situation of impotence. I used that expression in another talk. The tragic impotence of truth. And the point that I made in that talk was that when you know the truth about anything, no matter what it may be, your family, yourself, society, history, knowing the truth will change you, but it will not necessarily change what's around you, nor will it necessarily enable you to change anything. That is the tragic impotence of truth. And I would say that right now, there's a fair number of tads wandering around this planet who are throbbing with the tragic impotence of truth because they don't have the means or the opportunity to make a difference and to right the situation of the world, even on a small scale, perhaps in their own lives, but certainly not on a large social scale or on the scale of the activities and events of countries and nations. So what's to be done, Rome? That's a Coptic-derived slang word for humanity, human animals, Rome. Well, now I come around again to the odd part. Suppose that even if you had the means and the opportunity to act directly, have an impact, make a difference on all that is not right in the world, even if you had those second two factors in the proposition, you still wouldn't be able to correct the situation without another factor. So part of the impotence we all face is due to lacking means and opportunity to make a difference in this nightmare, or what some would have be the nightmare. But there's a deeper factor of omission, or in plain English, something fundamental is missing. So when you reflect, if you ever do, on the situation you're in, living among the zombies, looking at all the insane rules and restrictions that are being contrived out of thin air, and looking at the enforcement, and when you're sitting there passively shaking your head and saying, I can see it all, I even know why it's happening, but I don't have the means or the opportunity to do anything about it, you might add to that reflection that there's also something else that you don't have, but maybe you don't know that you don't have it. And that's something else that's missing, that's essential to really making a difference in no matter what situation, has to be corrected. That missing element can be defined by the word right. If you go back and you review my list of uses of that word, you'll see that they're routine, they're common, they're harmless and innocuous. No one's going to look at you with caution or contempt if you say, no, don't get it there, it's over there in the right drawer of the cabinet. Or if someone yells to you in the street, dummy, you're going the wrong way, turn right on the next road. You're not going to get upset because they use the word right, are you? Except in one case, yeah. In one case, the use of the word right is extremely upsetting to some people. As a matter of fact, the use of the word right in this fifth permutation or sixth or seventh is verboten. It's forbidden. It's forbidden to consider. You cannot consider that significance of right. Because that significance of right has a lot of baggage attached to it. It has a history that goes back to the 20th century and back to the years, in particular, from 1920 to 1945, with focus on the year 1933. So there's an historical record, and the actors and events in that record, you, the world at large, you and I, have been told and taught and indoctrinated that the actors and events in the historical record about the right is something to be condemned more than any other viewpoint in the world, more than any other philosophy, more than any other political or ideological viewpoint. You see? Don't look right. Don't go right. Going right is really, really bad. And history shows the evidence of it, right? There you go. However, it doesn't take a genius to see that in the case of the 20th century, time of the Second World War, and afterwards, that the greatest harm and destruction of society, including genocide into the millions upon millions, was not committed by the right. It was not committed by the people on the right. The Bolsheviks were not on the right. They were left-wing Marxist communists. Chairman Mao was not on the right. He was on the left. The Khmer Rouge were communists. The killing fields of Cambodia cannot be blamed on what is called a right-wing regime. The collapse of Venezuela today, the horrors that are taking place in that country, and the corruption of the government, the economy, and the suffering of the people cannot be blamed on the right. So isn't it odd that when you look at the record of history, and as I say, you don't have to be a genius, just have to know the basic actual facts of history, not the propaganda, it's very clear in many instances that the greatest harm and destruction perpetrated in this world has come from left-wing ideologies and not from right-wing ideologies. Isn't it? And yet, nothing is more condemned and forbidden than right-wing ideology. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You would like to have me define it. Define what is right-wing ideology, correct? Well, how would I do that? My notion, my concept of it. What can I tell you about my concept of it? It's quite simple. My concept of it is based on the proof of the performance and behavior of right-wing ideology when it was put into action. So my concept of right-wing ideology is not abstract or theoretical. I don't construct it out of thin air. I look for the evidence of it in the achievements, goals, values, and standards of behavior of those who enacted right-wing ideology in recent historical times. Now, bear in mind, and this is a huge caveat, when I go and look into that phenomenon, that historical phenomenon of the rise of the right-wing regime in Central Europe, I go to the primary sources. I don't go and investigate what historians and commentators who hated those people said about them and what they said and what they believed and what their plan was. I go to those people directly to find out in their own words and by the proof of their actions what they said and thought and intended. When I do that, by doing that, I formulate or I gather the information I need to formulate a concept of right-wing ideology. It's a wonderful investigation, I can tell you. It is refreshing and shocking to see what the originators of that ideology actually said. I mean, imagine 50 or 100 years from now, if my work survives, and say several people wrote books about me, and in these books, the authors say, John Lash believed this, he taught this, he said this and this about the Gnostics, he said this and this about the mysteries, the ritual use of entheogens, he said this and this about the Abrahamic religions. And you're getting from all these authors who claim to say what I said and taught, a version of what I said and taught. But why not come to the source, if my work survive, and find it in the source? Wouldn't you rather do that? You see? And it's the same thing, it's the same principle. And when you do that and you go and look into these primary sources, you come across certain messages, certain statements, such as the following. Quote, "Our program replaces the liberal idea of the individual and the Marxist concept of humanity with the people, a people defined by its blood and rooted in its soil. This may be a simple and concise statement, but its consequences are colossal." End quote. So there's an element, a factor in my investigation that I use as the basis for how I define right-wing ideology. Now notice that it doesn't say we are totally against the liberal idea of the individual. It says our program replaces the liberal idea of the individual by something else. So, as I'm sitting here today, just putting it together spontaneously, I can name about 3 or 4 elements that contribute to my concept of right-wing ideology. And one of them is that the liberal idea of the freedom of the individual cannot be placed over the responsibility of the individual to community, race, and nation, and land. Race, place, nation, land, language. The liberal idea of the freedom of the individual, everybody does their own thing, is not acceptable in right-wing ideology. But that does not mean that the free individual cannot exist. The free individual simply has a different basis, a different standard of behavior based on the concept of moral responsibility. There is no morality in liberalism. It's a toxic swamp. So right-wing ideology is radically anti-liberal. Also, that quotation from an individual whom I will call the Schnauzer. That's a breed of German dog, I believe. Says, a people defined by blood and rooted in its soil. There's another element that goes into the concept of right-wing ideology. It's nationalist and it's based in the native soil in the land where people are born. You see? What other factors could I add? I'm not attempting in this talk to endorse or promote right-wing ideology. I'm just telling you what I think it is, what I have found it to be. And I'm saying that without that definition of right front and center in the course of action to make the world a better place, it ain't going to happen. No matter if you have the means and the opportunity, no matter if you have the opportunity to go into politics in your country or in your community, if you go into politics carrying the toxin of liberalism or carrying left-wing values, you will not succeed in correcting what's not right in this world. The only way to correct what's not right is through going hard right. Can you see that? But in order to go hard right, you have to have the courage to realize that it's verboten, or verboten. It's forbidden. You take the risk of being condemned and hated even for talking about it in what would appear to be a slightly favorable manner. But why? When you see the carnage, misery, and destruction that left-wing ideology has perpetrated on this planet, why would you be not allowed to talk about the alternative openly and freely? Well, obviously, because left-wing communist ideology is the agenda. You see? It is the great agenda. And to even breathe a word of approval or appreciation or respect for right-wing ideological values is a no-no. You're going against the program. So what else can I add? What do I consider to be essential features of right-wing ideology? Well, again, I'm not a professor giving a lecture on politics. What I'm talking about is something deeply ingrained to me. It's intimate and personal. It's so much my second nature that I really don't think about it much anymore. But I'm taking the opportunity of this talk to put some of it out to you. and coming to the conclusion, perhaps I could say something that I've been wanting to say for a while. Right-wing ideologies, as you've been told about them, are associated with negative terms such as dictator, dictatorial, authoritarian, the jackboot in your face, the Gestapo at your door, which is not the same as the Bolsheviks at your door, because the Bolsheviks were not right. You know the cliches. They've been propagated in hundreds and hundreds of Hollywood movies, directed toward the defamation and condemnation of the Teutonic peoples of Central Europe, because they stood up in the right way at the right moment. And those who are running the globalist communist regime fear that more than anything else in the world. They fear it so much that they don't want to have a word even breathed about it. That's how dangerous it is. That's how powerful it is. And that's why it is so necessary in the formula of motive, means, and opportunity. What I'm telling you is that the truth about what the right correctly is extremely empowering to the truth about everything. Now, what I want to say, I've been wanting to say for a while, is about the reputation that anything right-wing is authoritarian. Well, yes, it is. Right-wing is authoritarian. But what kind of authorities are we talking about? For instance, I'll give you a concrete example. If you're a parent and you're upset because your child has been taken to the public library for drag queen story time, and you go in to protest and make a scene, and the authorities come and take you away, they don't allow you to protest, they don't even allow you to take your child out of the meeting. In fact, they accuse you of being a bad parent and they take your child away from you. This is what the authorities do. That's one kind of authority. Now imagine this scenario. There are some children in the public library attending a drag queen story time, and the authorities come in and wipe out that event. First of all, they remove the children protectively, carefully, delicately, and they wipe out that event. And they wipe out every possibility for that event to happen. Think again of pornography. Books that are circulated, published by companies, widely circulated in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Books teaching children about anal sex, teaching children about transgenderism. If you go into the school and go to the library and take the initiative personally to find all those books, throw them in a bag and take them out and burn them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble with the authorities. But imagine the other side of the story. The authorities come in and they take out those books and burn them, just like certain books were burned in Germany at a certain moment. And that incident is always used, isn't it, to condemn the right-wing regime. But did you ever ask the question, what books were they burning exactly? What books were they burning? Oh, no, hold on, John. The liberal view is that in any open democratic society, factions who are against the social order and against the government have the right to be represented. That's the mark of a liberal democratic society. And that is the insurance and guarantee of fucking destruction. You see, in a real right-wing authoritarian society, you have something that is, it's not inconceivable, my friends, but someone doesn't want you to conceive it. What you have in that society, in the historical record, in the social record of Germany in the 30s, and the economic recovery of that country, and the treatment of the workers, in that record, you have the evidence of state power enforcing what is actually good for the people of the nation. Now, those who condemn right-wing ideologies as authoritarian always use that trick. See, they deceive you by insisting on the idea that any authoritarian state regime is evil merely by virtue of being authoritarian. But I tell you, no, no, no. I ain't going to the Soviet gulag to learn that. I ain't going there to be re-educated. I'm damn fine well educated. Thank you very much. And I know that it is not only possible, but necessary for an authoritarian state to hold as its highest interest the good of its people and to enforce the authority of the state on those grounds. Now look at the governments today. When was the last time you saw any government in Europe, from the UK to Germany, Spain, who actually enforced anything upon the people that was good for the people? When was the last time any government in Europe did anything that was good for the people of that nation, of that country? They don't do it because they're accessories to the great plan and the great agenda. It's a leftist, communist takeover of the world. That's why things are not right anywhere anymore. And the antidote to that is a hard turn to the extreme right. Enough said. And I'll be seeing you in the beauty to come.